Okay, hi there. My name is Laura, and I would like to welcome you to a teaser video for Build a Responsive WordPress Website, the debut course on the Tackle Box, which is kind of my way of doing some online classes and collecting videos because I want to create online courses, but I don't really like recording screencasts because I am talking to myself. So I want to have some people online to teach, right? And then it kind of helps me explain things a lot better. And then we also get feedback from other people in the course. And my goal at the Tackle Box is to kind of keep doing these live online classes and recording them so that the content is kind of consistently up to date. But I'll tell you a little bit about this class here. So build a responsive WordPress website. Who wouldn't want to do that, right? So let's go through this nice pretty page I made. Okay, 8 weeks. Whew, that's a long time, right? Well, that's kind of what a class is. So I'm ready to teach general classes, and anytime you're doing kind of learning new technical skills, you need some time to let it sink in. And I'm a firm believer in project-based learning too. So this class is all about building a website, right? So everything we do is going to be directly related to your project and building your website. And kind of the goal, and of course this is up to you, kind of how much work you put in, but the goal at the end of the class is you have a website, right? It's live, online, launched, and you built it. And you know how to do that later too. So that being said, this is an intermediate class. I'll definitely have more classes for beginners coming up, but this is stuff that I've really wanted to teach, kind of what we're going to go over in this class. So I was like, I'm going to start out with an intermediate-ish class because I really want to talk about this stuff. But you should generally have an understanding of HTML and CSS and familiarity with jQuery-based JavaScript. So kind of having a feel of things like variables, you've heard of functions before, and you're comfortable writing HTML and CSS and kind of doing layouts, because what we're going to do with WordPress is we're going to be writing HTML and CSS and kind of incorporating the dynamic content management part into that. So having said, let's go down to what you'll learn. Look at these pretty icons. So WordPress and responsive design, of course. But to break it down, we've got content strategy, right? So what's on your website is incredibly important, obviously. I argue more important than how it looks, right? So we're going to be following kind of a very content-focused, mobile-first practice in making our sites. So that means we start by figuring out like kind of what our data structure is going to look like and what kind of content we need to get together, because it's really hard to just be like, oh, write an about page, like we're going to do that last. No, you got to start on that stuff first. And we're also kind of technology-wise, we're going to be learning Timber, which I talk about this all the time, but Timber is a nice little library for WordPress that helps us to kind of separate the logic, like the PHP logic, from how we write our markup. And I'm a big fan, and I think it makes WordPress development much more of a breeze, particularly when you're building a custom site. And that's something we're also going to talk about, is like, what's the difference between a WordPress website and a WordPress theme? Because we're not building themes here. I mean, they're called themes technically, but these are going to be custom websites for you specifically. We're also going to be using Sass. Big fan. CSS is cool, but you can totally write CSS in Sass too. And we'll require a little bit of setting up our development environments, but we're totally going to go over that stuff. Visual design, designing in code. Talking about typography, layout, things like that, and some kind of design patterns we can follow. And then, of course, responsible development. So like I said, we're going to be building mobile first. Starting small and making our design an additive process, right? So there's a nice saying by a guy named Stephen Hay, super smart, where he says, start with a small screen, then expand your screen gradually until it looks like SHIT. And then it's time for a breakpoint, right? So then you adjust your site design. You don't start, like modern kind of responsible development practices are not based on Photoshop mockups anymore. It's a very different kind of process. And so I like to emphasize that a lot in my teaching. And then, of course, PHP fundamentals. So we're going to need to learn a little bit about PHP and kind of how a server-side language works. Oh, how much does this cost? Well, I was initially aiming for this fat number here. And was initially planning to do this course in person because I love teaching in person. But Google Hangouts actually work really well and kind of opens it up for everyone. And I really want to do this and I really want to record it, so I have these videos for later. So get rid of this guy and price drop $250 a pop. So anybody who signs up for this salmon package is going to be a core member of the Google Hangout. Previously, I was thinking like just kind of tune in, and then maybe that's going to be a format for later classes. But for anybody who signs up for the class here, this 250 package, like we're all going to be in a Hangout. I want to limit it to kind of 8 or 10 people, and we're all going to be in the Hangout together in kind of a real class. And then the Scallop package is just a subscription to the class videos afterwards. But another super cool thing here with the salmon package, previously bluefin tuna, kind of merging the two there. You'll have access to office hours at CSS-Tricks. So this is something I've been working with that team on, is having these office hours through an online course package called the Lodge. But anybody who's in this Tackle Box class will get to take advantage of office hours during the course. So you'll have live help with me and lots of people from CSS-Tricks, and there's a nice Slack channel, keep track of notes and everything, and we'll probably have a Slack channel for the class too. And then we've got, upcoming schedule. My face is in here a lot. And these office hours are going to be themed, but then we'll also have open sessions, which you guys are free to come get help with your projects, anything you want. And so these are just 2-hour blocks, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So you'll have complete access to that as a member of this class. So that's pretty freaking cool, right? And then 1 year of access to Tacklebox resources. So like I said, with these Tacklebox classes, I'm building up the resources that are going to be online, available via a subscription. So if you take this class, you're going to get 1 year of access to all that stuff. Whew, okay, so a little bit about kind of the format of the class, right? So assignments, of course, like ultimate assignment is to make your website. So that's a lot. And this is not a trivial time commitment. So, right, this is an 8-week class for 2 to 2.5 hours every Monday night. So we're going to have lots of time to kind of hash this stuff out and hopefully have time for Q&A and some work time so that you can really I'd like to provide a lot of support throughout our class time together. And then also, like, you're going to need to work on your own. So not everything's going to happen within the class time. Then we have kind of lesson structure, right? I like to open things up with a discussion of kind of what's going on in the web community. I think it's really important to keep up to date with the latest and greatest. So that's kind of also part of your assignment, is to be keeping an eye on these news items, right? And subscribing to certain newsletters and staying in the know. So yeah, and then office hours. So we talked about those already. Reserve a spot. Okay, so $125. We're going to start it out with just a 50% deposit there. And then I guess come Monday or next week, I'll send you a link again and you can pay the rest of the money. And then scallops, $50 one time. So show you a little bit about kind of the website, the kind of website we're going to make. So my website is built with all of these things. So notlaura.com. Here we go. I teach coding, except fishing. Talk more about my philosophy around that too. So this is a very, very custom WordPress website. It is technically a theme in WordPress, but it doesn't look like WordPress in the back end so much. Uh-oh, need to update. Bad news. So let's look at some pages. So what we're going to be using is kind of the Timber library, and then also advanced custom fields is a way to, this isn't a great example. So advanced custom fields is a nice way to really customize the back end of how WordPress looks and helping organize your content, right? So back to this idea of like really content-focused development, we want to start with our content first. So like what's going to go where? How can we chunk these things out? We're going to go through kind of documenting the admin through advanced custom fields, and then adding this stuff to our templates in Timber. So this is like a pretty complicated version here. I'm not sure it would exactly look like this, but go for it, and you can totally start with a little starter kit I have for this block stuff. But so what does this look like in the back end here? So we can look at let's open up. Okay, so we're also going to go over a lot of kind of project organization stuff here too. Keyboard shortcuts. I'm a big fan of keyboard shortcuts. We'll talk about that. Talk about that a whole bunch. And so let's look at, here we go. Not this guy. Okay, so if we take a look at views here, right? Let's look at find a good example. Header. Okay, so we've got if post.prev previous, And then this is kind of how we're going to access the data in here. So you can see this is mostly HTML, right? So that's kind of why that's an important prerequisite for the class. But we're also going to learn about how templating works with Timber and with the Twig templating language, which is the concepts of how Timber is set up apply across a lot of modern development frameworks. So like Ruby on Rails, Django, a lot of JavaScript development frameworks operate under this idea of templates and kind of chunking out content a lot more than WordPress usually is with PHP. But I don't want to get into that too much because I'm starting to teach the class already because I'm so excited. I love this stuff. So I hope, let's go back to our page here. Oh, one other thing. So this is what kind of a lesson page is going to look like. After each class, I'll put, I'm not going to have a huge picture of me like this on here, but after each class, I'll kind of post the video and then some notes about the lesson, including assignments and related resources, things like that. So that's that's kind of what the tackle box resources are that you'll have access to. But anyways, so that sounds pretty awesome, right? For $250, oh man, getting a website and the knowledge of how to make one yourself later on. So think about, like, you know, if you want to get into client work at all or kind of work on your own projects, like this is awesome for that. So I hope that you can join me and feel free to be in touch with any questions at all. Thank you.